are back with another episode with Sally Sykes, our health coach here at Modern Thyroid Clinic and at Modern Weight Loss. And I love our conversation. So thanks for letting us continue. We are digging into GLPs and basically the GLP-1 revolution beyond weight loss. We want to talk today with you about all the benefits of these medications that are outside of weight loss, because we kind of think you deserve to know.
Weight loss is really the least interesting thing about GLP-1 medications. If you're concerned about chronic diseases of aging and what's really killing us, right?
Right. Weight loss is an added bonus, is what we say.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the icing on the cake. The cake is so much more than just weight loss. And the thing I want to differentiate going into this conversation is these effects are not all dependent on weight loss. They're not a result of weight loss. A lot of them show up before people lose any real amount of weight in the process.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it really is, you have to get healthy in order to lose the weight a lot of time. It's not lose weight to get healthy. So it's when patients are really struggling in the beginning, when they're on the low doses, maybe not losing anything, but their health is improving. You see that first. And that's when I feel like the inflammation comes down, the metabolism starts to heal, and then the body is able to relax and let go of that weight.
Agreed. I wanted to start this conversation by talking about 3 of the really big things that we see in our program that are benefits that people report to us, some of which we expected, some of which we didn't expect going into this, but have happened along the way. And then we're going to dig in to the research that tells us what all uses potentially these medications will have in the future. And I want to lay the foundation. Sally and I both agree. These medications, in our opinion, and in the opinion of a growing body of people, of clinicians or people in the medical field, are our generation's version of the discovery of antibiotics.
I agree.
Yeah. And are the biggest thing that will happen in medicine in our lifetime, hands down. So let's dig in. So the top 3 benefits that we see people outside of weight loss in our programs at Modern Weight Loss and Modern Thyroid Clinic. Number 1, metabolic healing.
Yes.
So
exactly.
It's not about losing weight. It's about healing your metabolism. Our goal is to, essentially my biggest goal, I don't know if this aligns with you, I think it does, is I want people to be able to input of effort and diet meet the outcome of what is supposed to happen.
Exactly. It's just, it's maddening, this rat race of doing all the things and eating nothing and over-exercising to exhaustion until you're just so fatigued and getting nowhere. It's just, it just should not be. Nobody should be having to put in that kind of work. Nobody should have to be eating 800 calories a day and going to Orange Theory 7 days a week. Like that just, I'm exhausted and inflamed just thinking about that. It's stuck.
No,
right? You should put in appropriate amounts of effort, like you said, and get good
appropriate results. And that's ultimately our long game plan is to show metabolic numbers on labs with data that tell us that you are metabolically healed, you're set up for success, that you can now, moving forward, if you were to discontinue this medication, eat well and exercise to normal people balance degrees and maintain or potentially continue to lose weight.
Exactly.
And that's very possible. And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah.
3 years in. So love it. Number 2, this one I expected going into it, did not see it as being this powerful. Inflammatory reduction.
It's absolutely incredible. The first thing that I saw, and I think I talked about this in the last one, was a patient who had psoriasis on her scalp her entire life. And after 2 weeks of the shots, it went away. And that was the first inclination that I had that these were reducing inflammation. And I just had never thought about it before. And then I had somebody else maybe with their eczema went away, psoriatic arthritis. And then we started to see the Hashimoto's antibodies coming down. That's an inflammatory issue. So it is incredible. There is an article, and I should have printed it out before we came here. It's literally the article of it in PubMed is GLP-1 is a multifactorial anti-inflammatory. Have you seen that?
Yes.
Okay. And the graphic that it has?
I don't remember the graphic.
It's absolutely incredible. I could probably find it on my phone. It literally has GLP-1 in the middle, and it has spikes coming off in all of the different systems in the body that it is affecting.
Yeah.
in reducing inflammation. The brain, the heart, the kidney, the pancreas, just the musculoskeletal system. It is just blown away. I mean, it's really hard to see. There were so many things they had to put in this tiny little graphic, but I'll pull that up. Maybe we can attach it somehow.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Because it really is. If you're thinking about trying one of these medications and you're worried about it, because there's so much misinformation out there, you gotta read this article. I know it's a PubMed article, but do yourself a favor.
Right.
Yeah, get the real information. It's incredible.
Right. And I think what people don't, I mean, in medicine, it's not common knowledge that inflammation is like the driver of disease. It's what breaks our body down over time. It's what puts us at risk for cancer. It's what puts us at risk for heart disease, the thing that kills, more people every year than all cancers combined. Inflammation is the root cause of so many disease processes. So if we can intervene at that core root cause, the possibilities are endless.
Exactly. I mean, they call it inflammaging.
Right. Inflammaging. Right.
True. It's function at the heart of it. Right.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah. I mean, I would say 90 to 95% of our patients, when I talk with them, they're like, I cannot believe the amount of inflammation that I lost in the first week.
Yeah.
Like 48 hours in, people can see their face, how they haven't seen it in decades because of the inflammation reduction.
Yeah. Yeah, just that puffiness where you just feel like you're, what is going on? You can't get your rings on and everything kind of hurts. Yeah.
Yeah. I won't retell the story of my patient G. I shared it in the other podcast. If you haven't listened to that one, you should, because it's really a powerful, incredible story. But I did have another patient who's been my patient for a decade who has psoriatic arthritis. She's been through literally every treatment possible for it, including, immunosuppressive drugs. And as soon as the study came out about a year and a half ago on the reduction in psoriatic arthritis, I messaged her immediately and I'm like, because she was already in our weight loss program. I'm like, hey, have you noticed this? She's like, actually, I haven't had a flare since I went on it. And she's like, and I'm not on.
Mention it.
Right. Any immunosuppressants. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
To be on immunosuppressants if you don't have to do that.
No one. And we've tried everything. I mean, LDN, low-dose naltrexone, which before this was my most powerful tool at reducing inflammation.
Yeah.
And it is really powerful.
Yeah.
I estimate GLPs to be 100 to 1,000 times more potent and powerful at reducing inflammation than LDN. So
that's incredible. I wonder if they've studied COVID rates because people who were metabolically unhealthy were getting COVID at higher rates, dying at higher rates. But I'm also wondering because long COVID.
There was a study that came out within the last 2 weeks.
Seriously.
About long COVID. I think it was around 30% less incidence of long COVID for people on GLPs. No. Also, there's a study that came out years ago on the severity of COVID reduction. It does, because COVID at its core is an inflammatory thing. So I'll try to pull those studies and put them in the notes, but it was really fascinating.
This is so important because, I mean, the long COVID effects that I get so worried about, especially for our kids, are the cognitive effects that we're seeing. Like people are almost getting like early dementia and they're having, exacerbated ADHD and depression, anxiety. So if we could have something that would help slow that train down and keep our minds strong.
Yeah. More resilient. I know.
Yeah.
And I had long COVID for almost a year. I don't wish it on anyone. It was absolutely horrible. Last one. Never saw this one coming. Touched on it in the last long episode that we chatted about disordered eating.
Oh, yeah. And you guys, this is one that I think we don't really hear a lot of patients talking about. And I think it's because there's just unnecessary shame around it. Binge eating disorder, I mentioned the last one, it is the most common eating disorder in this country. And what I always tell patients is that there should not be any shame around this. First of all, our food system is set up to be addictive, right? You're responding to these hyper-palatable processed foods exactly the way
you were supposed to.
Food companies designed them to be. They literally hire scientists to figure out what is the bliss point of, sugar and carbs going to make you, like Pringles says, bet you can't eat just one. Well, they know you can't just one, right? Like they know. And that's their bottom line depends on it. And so if anybody's out there feeling like, I mean, there was a time where I like had the candy corn hidden in my closet. You know, all of us have dealt with binge eating. It's a thing. That's the way these foods are made. Don't feel bad. Like, this is the way these foods are designed to be. So getting on one of these GLP-1 medications, if you're dealing with binge eating disorder and you feel like you're just kind of spiraling, you can't get out, I feel like it helped patients break that cycle.
Right. And I view it, interestingly, almost as, especially in the not binge eating disorder, but in the disordered eating, I think it's such a slippery slope. Women don't even know that they're doing it. I think it's a slow process of restricting more and more and more and more because they're just trying to be healthy and maintain their weight and not be overweight. And their metabolic potency is reducing more and more and more. So before you know it, they're at 800 or 1,200 calories a day, exercising 4 or 6 days a week, still not losing a pound. So they don't think there's a problem. Then, unexpectedly, I found that these patients go on a GLP, their body starts appropriately responding to food. They start appropriately losing weight. They're eating more food and they're losing weight. And so they start to retrain their brain of food is not bad. I should not feel guilty every time I eat. I should not feel ashamed. I'm not a failure because I didn't eat perfectly all the time and restrict. And they start to break those negative cycles that they associate with food.
And repairing the relationship with food is probably one of the things that we hear
The most
about. And it's really incredible to be able to just eat like a normal person and
not beat the crap out of yourself for it.
We don't want to beat the crap out of ourselves.
No.
We love ourselves. It's good.
So those are like the top 3 that I see for sure. Anything you want to add before we start digging into kind of research and things?
Along with disordered eating, I mean, during COVID, a lot of my friends and maybe your friends too, just started drinking more. I wanted to. You guys, this was so unexpected when I first started working with these patients. So GLP-1s lower your cravings for the kind of foods we're trying to avoid, like sugar and carbs and that kind of stuff. They also lower your cravings for alcohol. And so, I've had patients come in and they're like, I'm looking to lose weight, but I really would like to see if I can drink less too, because it runs in my family or whatever this is. What a great side benefit.
Bonus.
Yeah. What a bonus. Yeah.
Or that instead of having 3 glasses of wine, they have 1.
They have 1. And that's what a lot of people will say. They're like, I went to this party. Usually I would have like a whole bottle of wine and I found that I was still drinking the same glass. And like they took the whole night to do that. And they were able to like drive home safely and tuck their kids in at night. And of course that helps their weight loss journey if you're drinking less, but it was effortless.
Right. And that is powerful.
Yeah.
Like in a world where we're constantly like push harder, grind, just do it, make it happen. And women are already beating the crap out of themselves because they don't feel they're doing enough. They're not good enough. They're not a good enough mom. They can't work, be a stay-at-home housewife, support their kids, do all the things. If you can do something without so much effort, there's power in that. And this kind of transitions the conversation into the studies. And one of the topics that we wanted to talk about was substance use disorders. So studies show a 38% reduction in alcohol cravings, 23% decrease in alcohol consumption over 12 weeks. Again, effortlessly.
Yeah, effortlessly. And some of it, right, if you drink too much alcohol on a GLP-1, it can make you not feel good to your stomach. So that's it. But independent of that, it's just reducing cravings for it. Right. So whatever you're drinking is satisfying you and you don't feel like you're having to go back.
Right. Kind of, there was one other thing I wanted to talk about too, and I don't know. Oh yeah, I do have it.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, kind of going into that conversation.
Which is huge.
Which is huge. We kind of touched on this in one of our other conversations, but non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is a pervasive problem in this country. And it's not alcohol dependent, but it basically slows down almost every major process in your physiology. It creates inflammation and weight retention around the midsection. The treatment for it historically has really not been great. It's a little harsh and not the most effective. GLPs reduce 30 up to 31% of patients showed resolution of fatty liver after GLP treatment.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Liver enzymes, that's one of the
Right.
things. I mean, yeah, it's really incredible. And yes, and that's where you're seeing, because I've had that for sure when I had the type 2 diabetes, and I was a normal weight, but I had a bit of a belly, and my doctor was like, well, that's because your internal organs are marbleized.
Right.
Well, that's embarrassing. That seems rude. Tell me that. Right.
Do you have to put it so harshly? Or
But yeah, when you GLP-1s are just, they really work on the visceral fat in your internal organs. And once I was able to kind of reduce my carb consumption, I was able to get that down, and that felt a lot better. But GLP-1s really target that.
right. And like I hear people on social that are like, oh, isn't it really bad for your liver? I'm like, well, no,
No,
it's like
it's the opposite.
treatment for your liver. Like
Yeah.
it improves liver function, 31% non-alcoholic fatty liver resolution, where
Yeah.
it's no longer a problem anymore. Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy. Another one. This study came out, at least on the first statistic we'll talk about, within the last month. Alzheimer's.
Oh, this is the big one.
This is a big one for you because of your history with your dad.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a 43% reduction in brain atrophy rates in Alzheimer's patients, 15% brain increase in brain glucose metabolism, indicating improved neuronal function, right? I mean, that's absolutely incredible. I mean, they do call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. It's
Right.
insulin resistance of the brain, your brain's ability to use various
Right.
sources of energy.
And I think it's probably sugar related, but I also
yeah.
think it's inflammatory related. Going back to the inflammatory conversation of,
Right.
I think there is a reduction in brain inflammation.
I have been wondering about this because my doctor she's had me be gluten-free for a long time because the inflammation, there is a connection between gluten and Alzheimer's and everything. Because of the inflammation in the brain gets inflamed, it lays down amyloid plaques. Inflammation, right?
Right.
So again, the
Right.
anti-inflammatories of a GLP-1, right? I haven't talked to her about this, and I, eventually, in 10 years, 15 years, do I microdose that?
Right.
Is that where I have no idea.
Right.
It's really interesting.
It so is. I mean, and Alzheimer's dementia is an enormous burden on our medical system, and it's an enormous issue in terms of the health of our population, especially because we have so many people predisposed to that who now have prediabetes, diabetes, who later would likely have Alzheimer's. And this interrupts that cycle.
Exactly. Decades early. We don't have a cure for dementia and Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. All we can do is prevent the damage before it happens. And I think this is a really good way to do that.
Next one, still sticking with the brain neuro conversation, is Parkinson's.
Yep.
I thought this was pretty interesting. 3.5 point improvement in motor function scores compared to placebo. So this is how you measure Parkinson's disease.
Mm-hmm.
So statistically significant for sure. And the benefits persisted for 3 months after they discontinued the GLP.
That's incredible.
Right. So again, it's not weight loss dependent.
No.
Right? Not weight loss dependent, and shows some form of physiological healing that's taking place that is continuing after the medication is discontinued.
Just realized if this was a medication that had nothing to do with weight loss, say GLPs didn't raise weight loss at all, but they did all of these other things,
they would be the treatment of choice.
You'd think anyone would be fussing about them the way they are on the internet.
Absolutely not.
There's still so much obesity bias against and not believing that obesity is a disease.
Thinking everyone can simply solve it by caloric restriction and exercise.
This is laziness, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so this entire class of medications, but literally if we take away the weight loss, this is still probably the most revolutionary medical development in some penicillin, still, even without the weight loss.
Absolutely. That's such a powerful way to look at it. Like next, like cardiovascular protection. So we talked about this in our other episodes, but cardiovascular disease is what kills almost, like most of us. It kills more people than all forms of cancer combined.
Okay.
There is no cardiovascular disease treatment that reduces your risk of cardiovascular death.
No.
51%, because that's what GLPs do.
Yeah.
That was the Pioneer 6 trial, if you want to look it up. 51% less, basically if you are going to die, you are likely going to die of a cardiovascular event.
That's all of us.
So if you're on a GLP, you're 51% less likely to die. Crazy.
Yeah. When I hear cardiologists are refusing to use GLP-1s,
it blows my mind.
But they're prescribing statins like crazy. And they're because I will health coach their patients who are coming in with bellies because statins are doubling their risk of diabetes. They have testosterone lower than mine because cholesterol is the building block for every hormone in
their
the
brain is atrophied.
Their brain is atrophied. They're getting dementia. And then they start working with another practitioner who uses a GLP-1 and testosterone and thyroid hormone, and they're completely different within a year. It's fascinating. So I think,
absolutely. Like the cardiovascular piece is so incredibly huge, and new studies are coming out constantly. I agree with you in that these meds will replace statins. They will be treatment for this. Same line of thinking, stroke recovery, 24% reduction in the stroke clot volume when a GLP was started within 24 hours of the incident of the stroke.
That is incredible.
So now we're treating strokes with GLP-1s to keep the stroke small.
I wonder if we have data on patients who are already on it, or maybe they're just not having strokes at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I think your likelihood of having a stroke when you're already on it is reduced, depending on the study, 20 to 30% from, if I'm using my memory and it's serving me correctly. So incidence of stroke reduced, clot size with the stroke reduced, even if you start it after, and then 18% improvement in functional outcomes 3 months after the stroke occurred.
Significant.
Right.
So recovery is no joke.
No. And again, it falls into that cardiovascular disease that's going to kill most of us. So prevention, treatment, and long-term outcome improvement. Like, I don't think there's anything else out there that does all of these things.
Yeah.
Right.
If there is, I don't know it.
And we are still, as a society, looking at these medications as weight loss drugs. When they are amazing for weight loss, they are.
They are.
But also, like, we have a way to protect us from dying of a cardiovascular event. We'd split that risk in half. Like, that is worth a conversation in the media, as opposed to continuously talking about these pretend risks that don't really happen if people are well cared for, or very, very rarely happen, I should say, if they're well cared for.
Literally, there are more deaths from Tylenol every year that is like a completely over the counter, than from any GLP-1.
Tylenol is way more dangerous. Like Tylenol, if you take Tylenol and you are afraid of a GLP-1, first of all, just stop taking Tylenol. Like, it's horrible for you. Right. Not with alcohol, not with liver disease, which pretty much everyone has. So be afraid of Tylenol. People should not be afraid of GLPs.
Correct.
Gut. I want to bring in a story on this. There's two kind of aspects of this. One is like inflammatory bowel disease, like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, those sorts of things. And then the flip side of that is looking at how the microbiome is influenced by GLPs. I want to start with the story about one of my patients. I'm just going to call her Patient S because I don't want to share her name, even though she wouldn't mind at all. Patient S is a wildly successful, incredible woman who is an entrepreneur, who has a whole business supporting other women. She's amazing, intelligent, brilliant, encouraging. She's just a light in the world. I'm sure she'll probably share her story on here with you at some point. She wants to come on and give her, her story as a patient. But she's mid 40s. Since she was a child, she has had chronic lymphocytic colitis is what I think it was. It's an inflammatory bowel condition where she loses her continence of her bowels, meaning she will accidentally have a bowel movement. It happens very frequently in the middle of the night. She's engaged, loves her fiance, and carries around wild fear and shame around this issue, right? Has had it since she was 5. She's mid 40s. The first week she started a GLP, it never happened again.
No, stop.
I'm serious. Then she was, I don't know if you remember this, one of our patients had an electrolyte issue and ended up going to the ER. Yeah, it was her. So I was like, listen, you got to stop the GLP. We have to make sure and get a thorough workup and make sure it's not causing any of this. It wasn't. It was a coincidence and it was something different entirely. But she was off the medicine for like 13 days and it started already.
Oh, wow.
At the end, she's like, listen, McCall, I cannot be off these meds. I'm like, listen, well, you also can't live with like low sodium. So we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
Or high potassium, that kind of thing. Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, you all like, it's important. I'm making you stop this because it's important. Just let's wait it out.
Yeah.
But she was desperate. She's like, I can never go back to that. Like, I've never been free of it. And as long as I can remember, please don't make me go back there. She went back on it. It's been 2 years. She has never had an episode of loss of bowel continence since being on this medication.
That's possibly the most incredible story.
I know. And if she could tell it.
Like that.
I know.
Did she get married?
I don't think she's married yet, but she will, they moved, they bought a house.
Yeah.
She just, every aspect of her life has completely changed because of joining our program. And she's in Modern Thyroid Clinic too. So it's the whole approach, but so empowering. And so bleeding into that, gut-based improvement, inflammatory bowel disease. 40% of ulcerative colitis patients achieved clinical remission after 12 weeks on a GLP compared to 15% with a placebo. I don't know the stats on treatment for ulcerative colitis, which again is going to be an immunosuppressive, but I can imagine one, it definitely certainly doesn't come with the other benefits that these drugs come with. And two, the treatment possibility of remission is probably not 40% with drugs that were specifically designed to treat ulcerative colitis.
Those are drugs designed to mask the symptoms of ulcerative colitis. Treating the root cause.
It is treating the gut inflammation.
Exactly. And I'm wondering, good grief, after 12 weeks, you're still on a very low dose.
Right. Absolutely.
Even if you're titrating up as quickly as you can, you can't get to the highest dose of these meds till month 5. That's incredible.
Right. Absolutely. 50% reduction in fecal calprotectin levels, indicating decreased intestinal inflammation. So calprotectin levels show up with ulcerative colitis, with Crohn's, with IBS, IBD. It's just a measure of sort of this inflammatory response and a precursor for chronic IBS, IBD that's severe. So a reduction of 50% of that marker is very, very powerful. And then the other conversation of the microbiome, I saw this study, I'll try and pull it, but it actually changes your microbiome without ever taking a probiotic and increases your beneficial gut bacteria by 25%.
Wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I know.
They're obesogenic bacteria and non-obesogenic bacteria. So it literally makes it less important.
Right.
It's fascinating.
And it's so funny because we have people all the time in our program saying how much their gut function has improved.
Yeah.
And what's happening outside of our program in the regular world is everyone's constantly talking about how bad it is for your gut and how it slows your motility and gastroparesis. Not to discount that that's possible. It is, again, very dose dependent, right? You need to go slow, low. If you're constipated, pull back, but go low and slow and have a team that's there checking in with you.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the reality of the conversation is most people are not getting gut issues. Most people's gut issues are wildly improving.
Oh, 100%. Yes, you'll get gut issues if you are slamming extremely high doses, drinking tons of margaritas and cookies and things. I mean, even my own partner had too many cookies one night after his shot, and he learned his lesson on that. No, it's like the best advice is it's like you've had gastric bypass surgery. That's one patient told me. Like that is the advice to give your patients because it slows that gastric emptying. So it's almost like you're staying fuller longer and you have a smaller stomach. So
don't force it.
Don't force it. Smaller meals, maybe the salad plate rule. You can always go back for seconds, but just
right. Yeah. Smaller meals, more frequent. Yeah. It's like the opposite of the advice I normally give for people with metabolic dysfunction. I normally promote fasting and limiting the time that you are raising your insulin throughout the day. You don't want to do that in this case. Like you want to not limit the amount of opportunities you have to eat because you're not going to
meet
your protein. You're not going to be able to eat as much in each sitting. And our goal is protein, micronutrients.
Yes.
The last big one I wanted to touch on is the aging and longevity piece. So we've been using these in the aging and longevity sector for a while. I mean, honestly, I had a conversation with the founder of Young Goose Skincare. And he's like, people have been using these before they were even approved for weight loss, which I find amazing and not surprising.
Yeah.
But I think everyone has these fears that these drugs are going to do bad things. They are going to increase your chance of cancer. I had a stat on cancer that I really need to find. Do you see it? It's on my computer.
But it doesn't surprise me, right? What does cancer live on? It lives on sugar.
Sugar and inflammation.
And so the biggest causes of cancer are going to be alcohol, obesity, smoking, and UV sunlight. So, yeah, I've even had patients at the previous clinic where I worked, or in just my coaching clients who have had cancer in the past, and their doctors have them on the medication to keep their blood sugar stable and not too high, so that they will to try to prevent remission.
Right.
And recurrence. Right. Yes. So they stay in remission because cancer loves high blood pressure.
And people, the contrast of this conversation is people are perpetually talking about these drugs increasing their cancer risk.
Right.
When in reality, it is the opposite. And so someone is creating this narrative. I found the statistics.
Yeah.
13% reduction in breast cancer risk.
Right.
22% reduction in colorectal cancer, which is a huge problem in young people today.
Yeah, it's a really incredible. And of course, right, if obesity and alcohol are two of the biggest causes of cancer, if you're taking a GLP-1, you're consuming less alcohol and you're losing weight and not being obese anymore. That, of course,
huge.
That totally tracks.
Right. And in that same conversation, from an aging and longevity standpoint, 12% increase in lifespan in mouse model aging.
Wow.
30% reduction in age-related cognitive decline in animal studies.
Wow.
Right.
That fascinates me. I want to know what it does for ovarian function. I mean, I know it helps with fertility in younger women. I wonder if it helps delay menopause.
Ooh, I could look for a study on that.
I will look for a study. I know rapamycin just came out. There was a study on rapamycin and extending menopause.
Really?
Yeah.
Fertile years, basically.
Yeah, years.
Hormone functioning years.
You better believe I got on that real fast.
I know. I'm on it as well.
Well, it's supposed to be great just once a week for Alzheimer's prevention and for all kinds of other
kinds of anti-aging
microdose. But
right, as you're supposed to, right? Because otherwise they suppress your immune system.
Right.
What happens in large doses with medications is not what happens in small doses of medications.
Exactly. It's not the medication. The dose is in the poison. The poison is
in the dose.
Yeah,
exactly.
The dose makes the poison.
The dose makes the poison.
That's so true.
I know you also wanted to touch on the kidney piece. I forgot about that. So I figured I'd let you talk about that.
We mentioned it briefly in the last one, but I think it is worth mentioning because kidney function is directly related to insulin resistance and diabetes, right? So in the United States, where 96% of us are metabolically unhealthy, this is why you'll see kidney dialysis clinics on in every strip mall. It's a very lucrative business. So they did a study looking at kidney function. Some patients got nothing, the placebo group, and some got semaglutide. The ones on semaglutide, their kidney function improved so much that they had to stop the study in the middle and give semaglutide to the placebo group because it was considered unethical to deprive that group of this medication that we improve kidney function so much. And I have seen it in coaching clients. We're tracking kidney function, the EGFR and different other, and that is, I'm seeing improving even in sort of patients who are like, oh, we just genetically have poor kidney function. It's still improving.
Oh, I believe it.
On a tiny microdose. And it's super exciting.
It is. So I hope so much, in summary, that part of I feel my passion and in this topic is to change the narrative and give people an opportunity to actually have real information.
Yeah.
Because the narrative that is being fed to the masses is not the reality of what is happening if you have an opportunity to dig in deep to the literature, to what's coming out, and even what we are seeing in our practice as we collect more and more data.
Yeah.
So I hope we were able to offer some insight to you. If you haven't tuned into the other episode, please do. I will also put Sally's social media in our notes, but do you want to tell people too where they can find you online?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Sally Sykes. It's SallyDahlSykes.
And I'll drop it in the show notes too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
This is really fun.
It is fun.
Getting the information out there because, I'm 51 and it's like we're not going to live forever. And I think that's the kind of patients we like to see is we're at this age where let's live our best lives. And we're here to help you with that. And the more information you have, the better choices you can make for yourself. So,
right. And let's live healthy lives.
Yeah.
Let's let our later years be filled with, vitality, love, energy, not surviving, but thriving. Right.
I want health span,
Health
not
span.
just the lifespan.
Exactly.
For sure.
And I think these meds offer that like nothing we've seen thus far in medicine.
It's incredible. Independent of weight loss, you guys. I think that's the biggest thing.
Biggest
to
message
take from this. If somebody fusses at you about thinking about these medications, just tell them to pretend there's no weight loss involved. And it just does all of these
Just
things.
reduces your risk of dying from a heart attack by 51%.
Okay, NBD,
Right. No big deal.
Now are they opposed to it?
Right. Probably not.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.